Science has repeatedly shown us that when given with a lot of time, people start doing crazy, spooky and cringy stuff. Hey, you! Oh, I was actually playing the Shake Your Phone Android game, where, if you shake more vigorously, you'll get more points. That's how productive my quarantine has been. But if you think about it, with technology being so advanced, there are some quite crazy stuff that you can do which are actually productive, like rooting your Android phone. Oh wait, is rooting your Android phone any relevant today? Back in 2014, you had to root your phone for simple things like enabling OTG, improvement in battery life and so on. If we plot the complexity of the rooting process and the value addition that it gives across time, it is clear that rooting is not as attractive a process as it once was. This is because most of the necessary features are already available in Android itself. But that doesn't mean that rooting doesn't give you some pretty cool things. Rooting is the process of allowing users attain privileged controls over various Android subsystems and system files which are by default not accessible. Now, I'm not going to go through each step of rooting in detail because that can vary from device to device, and there are millions of tutorials available on YouTube for any particular device. But here's a broad overview of the process. Every phone has an operating system installed in it, which can be Android 9, 10 and so on. But then, to tweak the operating system itself, the phones need to have a ROM where users can perform specific tasks using a command line. This is called recovery mode. Now, by default, Android doesn't allow users to change the operating system using its stock recovery. For that, we need a custom ROM. Since Android is open source, the source code of this recovery is available freely on the internet, and tons of people have created customized version of this recovery. But to install a custom recovery, there is one more step that needs to be done. You see, every phone has a bootloader, which is a program that is responsible for bringing up the kernel on that device. It also checks whether your phone is loading the right programs during startup. Again, by default, these bootloaders are locked, which means that they are encrypted. This means that we need to decrypt and unlock the bootloader. So, rooting involves overriding the system permissions and changing the operating system, which requires flashing a custom recovery, which in turn requires an unlocked bootloader. Now, during the early 2010s, the process of rooting was fairly easy. We had apps like Frameroot or KingRoot, which can be downloaded, and boom, the process was over.
It's done. Yes, Mr. Frodo. It's over now.
But nowadays, manufacturers just don't like you rooting the phone. The support for bootloader unlocking and how to do it is announced officially by the phone manufacturer in their website a few days after its release. Some companies will take ages to make the announcement, while some companies don't even do it. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Huawei. Even if everything goes right, to unlock the bootloader of modern phones, you need to have a laptop and know how command line works. You can learn more about each of these processes by going to the links given down below in the description. But I think now you can understand why I said earlier that the graph of complexity is going higher and higher. Alright, now let's discuss about the reasons for which you should root the phone. Coming back to the graph, we have already told that the benefits line is coming down, but that little hype, that could mean a lot to you. You see, rooting the phone itself doesn't add any benefits to your phone, but it rather just adds an extra app to your phone, which is the root manager. The root manager manages the permission to the root apps, which access and changes the system files. You can consider this root manager as a watchful protector. Root apps are those apps which let you do cool things that normal apps cannot do by accessing and editing the system files. An example for that would be the Titanium backup, which can uninstall any app that you want, including the bloatware that the manufacturers add. That itself is pretty attractive. A lot of people hesitate to buy cheap phones or phones that come with a carrier locking because of bloatware. Now obviously, once you remove the bloatware, many of the cheap phones will perform almost like the flagships. Root apps can do much more than that, like changing phone animations and fonts, changing the CPU speed, hacking games, remove restrictions in various apps and so on. And remember, we are not even seeing the tip of the iceberg. Couple of root repositories which are way popular and probably the reason why a lot of people root their phone are XPOSED Installer and Magisk Manager. These are repositories of mods which can do customizations, fix bugs, and help in productivity. Some of my favorite Magisk mods include Viper for Android, which helps in enhancing audio dramatically, YouTube Vanced to obtain a modern version of the YouTube app, App Systemizer to turn third-party apps into system apps. Some of my favorite XPOSED modules include Download Progress, which helps you in seeing the progress bar right on top, not requiring you to pull down the status bar. Boot Manager, which helps you in controlling which apps should start up while the phone boots up, making the process faster. Alltrans, which translates any app from any language to any other language you want. Routing gives access to apps like Subtract and Theme, and as we discussed earlier, a lot of mods which helps you in making your phone look and perform the way you want it. A lot of cheap phones often come with crappy software which lead to a sluggish experience even when the hardware is pretty competitive. With a rooted phone, you can install third-party operating systems like Lineage OS or Resurrection Remix. These custom operating systems are built on top of Android by adding some useful features to it. You can learn more about custom ROMs by going to the link that I've given right here in the card. The Poco F1 has a very competitive hardware but has the MIUI software which is at the best pretty average. But after rooting my Poco F1, I installed the Pixel Experience OS and now it just feels like a Google Pixel phone. Installing the wrong apps, flashing the wrong file, or changing the system files that you shouldn't would make your phone crash, go into a boot loop, or even worse, brick it. Oftentimes, there are ways to get out of these situations and recover your phone, but sometimes these damages can be permanent. So, unless you know what you're doing, it's probably not a good idea to root your phone. A lot of popular apps which are strict about security uses SafetyNet API, which helps the apps in identifying whether the device is tampered with and refuse to run if the device is rooted. These apps include Netflix, Google Pay, Snapchat, and a lot of banking apps. There are XPOSED and Magisk modules which help in working around the SafetyNet API and tricks the app into thinking that your phone is not rooted, but it may not work in every phone. So do make sure that whether your device supports it before rooting. Rooting is mostly legal all around the world except some of these countries. Once again, you can check about the specifics of each country by going to the link given down below in the description. One of the most asked questions in the internet about rooting is whether the process voids warranty or not. This is a tough question to answer, but generally the answer is yes for most phones. Even though many manufacturers offer an official way to unlock the bootloader, they still claim that this kind of customization could void your warranty. So the specific answer might depend upon the manufacturer and your particular device. So do Google it up or check your phone manufacturer's website to know whether rooting voids your warranty or not. Well, Android today is much more powerful and has much more features than it ever used to have. So if any of the discussed cons are a deal breaker for you, like if your phone is within the warranty period or if your phone doesn't support the workarounds for the SafetyNet API, you're better off not rooting your phone. Otherwise, with the quarantine going on and you having a lot of time in hand, go explore some of the awesome features that we have discussed in this video. Trust me, you'll never regret it.